don't know why we ever question ourselves. We're right about everything.
You ever get the feeling that everything in America is completely fucked up? You know that feeling that the whole country is like 1 inch away from saying, that's it, forget it. Let's see,
Hey,
where
twist
I'm,
around. Now look, here's a
92
house full of
FM
bees.
tonight. It feels like
You think the
nice
honey
cool
badger
little
cares?
band
It
so
doesn't give a
far.
shit.
Listen, let's get one thing straight.
Price is right.
Guns don't kill people.
Guessed it.
I do.
I was horny as hell.
White man came across the sea. He brought his pain and misery. He killed our tribes. He killed our creed. He took our aim for his own greed. We fought him hard. We fought him well. Out on the plains, we gave him hell. But when it came to much for free, oh, will we ever be set free? Riding through dust clouds and barren wastes, galloping hard on the plains, chasing the redskins back to their holes, fighting them at their own game. I did some freedom to stab it.
I have a constant debate going through my head over which is the best Iron Maiden album.
Oh, yeah?
And that's been going on for like 20 years.
And what's it down to?
It's either Peace of Mind or Killers. Yeah.
I am not an Iron Maiden fan.
Really?
Well, I like their
Yeah,
music, but I've never really listened to.
They're one of my
much.
all-time favorite bands. They have been since I was a kid. The only album I had was Killers, which was before Bruce Dickinson, their old singer, Paul Di'Anno, who was like a little more of like a punk rock singer. It didn't have the metal falsetto and stuff that Bruce Dickinson had.
Yeah.
And so I'm kind of notorious for being into like the not cool era of bands. So like my favorite Kiss album was Animalize. Like after they had the makeup off, I was like, "Oh, you like Kiss?" And you're like, "Yeah, Animalize." I'm like, really? Like who listens? Who listens? To
Not
that?
supposed to
Listens
like
to that
them
album
without the
But
makeup.
it's the one I grew up with. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I didn't know. Yeah, I lived in a small town. I didn't know what was cool and what wasn't. But our
Like the first dude you kiss, then everyone else after that is you're always comparing them to
exactly
to her.
So, Killers, Peace of Mind, those rotate out of number one all the time. Most your average Iron Maiden fan would probably say Peace of Mind or Power Slave. I was playing in a band that we had a Fender endorsement, and
The instrument.
the instrument,
Not the car part.
not the car part. And he goes, "All right, what do you want? I'll send it out to you. I'll send it out to you on tour. It'll be there at the show when you get there." I was like, "Yeah, like give me this P bass." He's like, "What color?" I was like, I don't really care, just something normal." You know what I mean? And give me like a Fender J bass with like this on it and blah blah blah. He's like, "What color?" Like, none of the colors really matter. And I was like, "Oh, is there any way you can get me the Steve Harris signature P bass?" He goes, "Absolutely not." He's like, "And you won't believe how many times I get asked that question when I talk to bands." So I never got one.
It's just like they just won't make it for anyone else.
I think there's such, and they only made so many, and there's such high demand, and everyone asked for them, and we're probably a little lower down the totem pole than like the Foo Fighters and stuff,
Right?
You know what I mean? Who get whatever they want.
So got a new review.
Okay.
Just making sure it was complete. Yeah. So 5 stars. Matt and Kelly are two real fellas sharing their views about this clown world. Out the door test in audio format.
Huh.
Their perspectives are thoughtful and make sense.
Nice.
I like the call out for the out the door test.
Is this one of those reviews where it's just like praising our accolades, and at the end they give us a 3-star review?
It actually sounds more like a review that one of our wives wrote, to be honest. But I'm actually sure it's not.
This podcast is a complete time suck. There are chores to be done around here.
I know it was real because our buddy reached out and sent me an email and he said that 3 points in the email.
Okay.
Point number 1, you guys are awesome and are great to listen to while working.
Okay.
I can see that. Mm-hmm. Point number 2, please make a Spotify playlist with all song openings and recommendations made in the show.
Sounds like a lot of work.
I have all of the song openings, kind of, except maybe for the last 4.
Can we do that though? Just
like make a playlist?
Oh yeah, you can make a playlist.
Make a playlist. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I mean, it might raise some eyebrows that we're stealing people's music to create our intro, but because we're doing it in a documentarian fashion,
exactly,
we are allowed to do so.
Yes.
So fuck off. However,
not sure who you're angry at right now, but this is completely hypothetical.
Yes, this hypothetical musician who Enya, for example, coming for their money.
She's down. She says, "Go use away, use away."
Second half of that, though, for all song openings and recommendations made in the show. That would require re-listening to every single episode.
What do you mean recommendations? Like,
well, we talk about music kind of a lot.
Oh, okay. Music recommendations.
Yeah, I believe so.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I thought you meant like what to do with your life.
I don't know how to do that.
If you're looking to us for that, we got.
I'm not sure how to put that on Spotify. And then the third point was he gave us
work hard and stay in school.
He gave us a. I'm going to say this without getting anyone in trouble. He gave us a link that is a workaround to certain obstructions that you and I run into in doing our research that ends up costing us a lot of money to...
How to get ammo? Without a background check?
Child brides, actually. I'll just come out and say
okay.
it. Yeah.
All right.
So that's useful. If you want the link, just go ahead and email me and make sure you CC the FBI on that. So thanks. Anyone else that
or Patriot Front? Wait.
Yeah,
those are the same people. Okay, never mind.
Yeah, but you repeat yourself.
Yes.
Please leave us a 5-star review on Yield podcast app, whichever one it is, and if we see it, we'll read it, even if it's not 100% flattering. Mm-hmm. We're man enough to read it anyways.
Exactly. Very comfortable in my own skin at this age.
Yes. While we're at it, if you would like to support the show with money, please go to Patreon, become one of our valued subscribers there. Get yourself all sorts of perks like T-shirts and stickers. And pretty soon we are going to be doing half of our shows on for Patreon supporters only. We'll let you guys know when that kicks off. You can also go to our website, libertytreelifestyle.com, and buy a T-shirt or some flip-flops or...
I get more conversation starters / compliments on the Liberty Tree shirts when I wear them.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, mostly the radicalized one.
Oh, really?
Seems to be a hit with whenever I wear it around.
I don't have that one. I haven't experienced the love.
Yeah.
I get a lot of compliments on the falling down shirt.
Yes.
Yeah.
I've seen.
That one's cool. And we also have rash guards and stuff for jiu-jitsu, if you'd like to check that out. And one of our rash guards is it's a short sleeve rash guard, and it's the white shirt that Michael Douglas's character wears with the tie on it and the pocket protector. But then on the back, it has this really cool image of him.
Because you guys, I'm not part of the T-shirt thing. I'll just text you like, here's an idea, and then you guys either do it or don't. And then you guys kind of handle that, the other part of Liberty Tree. I didn't know that one was in the works. I saw it in the gym for the first time. Mm-hmm. I was like, holy shit, dude, that is amazing.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
That's might be my favorite.
Yeah,
one
it's
that
pretty
we've
good.
done. And I thought when I first brought it into the gym, I was a little nervous because I don't mind that the tie that's on it. And by the way, the tie is not just a straight tie. It's taken right from the movie.
Disheveled.
It's a little disheveled, like he is throughout the whole movie. Right. And so I had to get I was just like sampling it to try out the different sizes and the quality of it. And it's actually the quality of those short sleeve rash guards is it's like the best training shirt that I've ever had.
I have the what is it, the dark camo one.
Yeah.
I can't believe like the quality of that thing.
I know.
And I'm not just saying this
They're
because I profit personally from people buying these.
No,
but
it is. Well, I
was blown away. It's because I have I've ordered a lot of like name brand rash guards, and like the stitch, they're super thin material. They're probably
Yeah.
Chinese knockoffs.
Yeah.
And the stitching comes out, and I was like, God dang it. I'm so tired of spending money on this, and this thing's like garbage.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's nice and thick. I like that.
That's one thing that we always try to do is get good quality stuff, which is why we have to order samples to see if it's any good.
Yeah.
But that short sleeve one, the falling down one with the tie on it, I'm not afraid of wearing a shirt that has the fake tie on it. It's kind of silly, but I don't care. But I was a little bit nervous that other people wouldn't, be so into it. But I ordered a medium and a large just so I could see how they fit. The medium fit me, and so I gave the large to Phil, and he rocks that thing all the time.
Yeah, I always say wearing it.
Always talk about it. And then Ryan, who was on our show, he wears his all the time.
Yes.
And people were asking him where they could buy it, and he was, it was awesome. It worked just like we planned.
There's something beautiful about seeing, someone like Phil or, especially Ryan. I was watching him a while back of wearing something kind of tongue-in-cheek and goofy and just like folding a heavy bag in half with his kicks. And his Muay
just
Thai
being a
kicks.
complete assassin.
Still just got that big smile on his face.
Totally. Yeah. So yeah, go check that stuff out. We have a promo code. Let's see. Use the I think it's Insta10 for 10% off. There you go. You're welcome.
Nice.
Dude, I got a lot of feedback from our last episode
Really?
that we did. I got a lot of feedback from the one before that too. People, so it was,
The necrophilia segment?
yes, people just can't stop talking about that.
There's a lot of sick people out there.
I know. What are you gonna do? No, the having Eddie on, and we were talking about Hotez, and
I got some feedback on that too.
it was like it was Hotez and Kennedy, right? That was kind of the debate that
Hotez.
sparring that's going back and forth right now.
Yeah,
that,
via Joe Rogan. Yeah.
yeah,
Correct.
and it's been a pretty big deal, and shockingly so. I didn't really when that first happened, it just seemed like kind of like everything that's a big deal on Joe Rogan. It's a big deal for a minute, and then it's not. This
Right.
thing seems like
It's got some legs.
it keeps growing and growing.
Well, it is because it's indicative of something.
Yes.
I think people are waking up to the fact of like, there's a lot of math that just doesn't add up, right? And the COVID pandemic was the catalyst, for a lot of people going like, I really got to start rethinking the information I'm taking in and the people I'm getting it from. And I think that became indicative of this entire paradigm. There's so many people. We always say like, we try to talk about like the bright sides of the pandemic. I'm like, I think it just woke like a lot of people up. I definitely galvanized people that were kind of already there. And it's like, I have a natural inclination of distrust of authority and the media complex and the, big pharmaceutical companies, which apparently is a wild right-wing position all of a sudden. But I think the Joe Rogan thing, it's important for the conversation for what they're actually saying, but I think it's indicative of just that kind of larger thought process that I think a lot of people are going through right now.
Yeah, I kept getting texts from people saying like, like our buddy Anthony, who's been the guest on the show.
Yeah.
He and I were texting back and forth a bunch since that came out because he hadn't listened to the episode, but he just out of the blue was like
Our episode or the RFK episode?
he hadn't listened to our episode.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. Now he listened to Joe Rogan. I keep finding that more people are listening to Joe Rogan than us.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what are you gonna do?
It is the most popular podcast in the world.
I know. I'm just saying. I mean, guy's our friend. You'd think. Whatever. He was saying that he just, I think, out of the blue, reached out and was just like, "Hey, what do you think of RFK Jr.?"
Mm-hmm.
I was like, and I just told him kind of, what we've talked about on the podcast a lot. I guess basically to sum it up, just I think he is a
Good on some stuff and bad on the other stuff.
He's an anti-establishment candidate, and they're going to ruin his life over that. But he doesn't care, and he really, truly seems like a principled anti-establishment character.
Right.
Unlike Bernie Sanders, which we talked about, who I don't think Anthony got what I was saying there, but I was saying like Bernie Sanders, kind of checked his principles at the door once he was he endorsed Joe Biden and
because people think
started becoming more pro-war.
Yeah, because we know a lot of people that are edgy they think they're edgy. Like Bernie's going to like shake up the systems. Like, why does he keep voting us into wars?
Yeah.
Like,
why would he support?
we could
Joe
start with
Biden?
that.
Yeah. So but anyways, we had this long back and forth, and he was telling me like, you are the only person that I've texted with whose response wasn't like complete revulsion to RFK. Like that just he's obviously he might as well be a right wing, white supremacist
As a Democrat, right?
Yeah.
Which historically, if you look at the history of the Democratic Party,
It kind of makes sense.
yes, the math
good
does
point.
work out actually. But
And I just thought, like, God damn, like that story really has some legs. Like this thing with RFK, he is you have to it's funny because you have to look at the world. You only have a few ways to look at the world. If you lived on a mountaintop and never came into town and didn't have any communication with anybody, you wouldn't know anything about anything, right? So how do you know stuff? Well, you have to hear people talking about it. You have to see videos about it. You have to be given that information some way. The normal way that everyone gets that information is through the mainstream media. All right. Now, if that's the only way that you get it, then yes, your reaction would be RFK Jr. is a total wingnut, science denier.
right,
What else do they say about him? Whatever, just hack.
Yeah.
Right? And what's happening is he's actually leading in a lot of polls.
yes, he is.
So how is that happening? Well, it's like there's this the fog that is created by the mainstream media is clearing, and you're able to see through the bullshit more and more.
Yeah,
And I think that's kind of the most interesting thing that's happening right now, because maybe 3 years ago it would just get buried and that would be it. He would be like just any who was the candidate that ran for the Libertarian nomination?
Joe Jorgensen.
No, the one that we voted for. Something I can't remember his name, but the guy that
Jacob Hornberger.
Hornberger.
Right.
Nobody would ever know who he was. He's
Right.
just too small time. Even though he's the most principled, he's just too small time. 3 years ago, RFK Jr., even though he's more well known, would be like that. Like it would just be pigeonholed into this thing that you would never be able to see through, and you would never know who he was. They would react differently. They would ignore him, which is what they should be doing, right? But what's happening now is that the mainstream media is losing grip of the zeitgeist. They're unable to really control things
They
anymore.
absolutely are.
So instead of just ignoring RFK Jr., which would probably be a better move if they're trying to get people to not know about him,
Yeah.
they're going on this full frontal attack and trying to just take him out. And it's having the opposite effect. It's like this turning point in a media war that's characterized by things like Tucker Carlson being fired.
Right.
And the other libertarian show, the only libertarian show on Fox News, Kennedy being fired.
Right.
And all of this, Joe Rogan becoming like just sensationally.
If you mention the word, if you say the words Joe Rogan, people, walk around here will just roll their eyes like, oh, fuck.
That's one of the things Anthony said. A mutual friend of ours, he said that he mentions Joe Rogan, and he has this speech about. Well, that doesn't actually say anything. Well, or just says that he has major problems with Joe Rogan, but won't actually say why.
Yeah, won't articulate what they actually are. I think that something that
I have problems with Joe Rogan too, but I could tell you what they are.
Yeah, I rarely listen to Joe Rogan. I listened to that episode because I wanted to hear what RFK had to say. I think you're also kind of lending credence to something that we talk about quite a bit. We're watching the death roll, the literal death roll of the traditional media complex, which is mainstream media. And the way that I think about it, I've been thinking about that a lot this week after that episode that we listened to, is that taking in mainstream media, we always say like real news comes with homework. Like if you really want to look at an idea and figure out what it's about, like you have to do some homework. And most people, 80% of people are not going to do that, right? And they're going to, the people that do are going to do that on a varying gradient, right? Only fucking weirdos like you and I like sit there and read and read and read, and
Actually,
text articles back and forth and read and and you wait for an idea to bubble to the surface, which is the beauty of being apolitical and not belonging to any group. You're like, I don't go into this with like any specific, like I haven't been told what my marching orders are, right? I'm going into this and we walk out our front door like, is this a good idea or a bad idea? And watching the death roll of the traditional media complex is why they are demonizing and coming so aggressively after people like, I don't know, your Tucker Carlson or your Joe Rogan or any like alternative media platform. Because if you think about it like this, make the metaphor that taking in CNN and MSNBC and Fox and like all these programs, it's the equivalent for your brain. It's equivalent of nutritionally eating fast food all the time.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't have time to cook. I don't want to like look it up. I don't want to like read a recipe. I don't want to read the ingredients on the box. I don't want to spend a bunch of time. I don't want to like make sure I get like this organic this and this is locally sourced this. And I know that's the best thing for my body and, and for my health. I don't have time to do that. Like I need food now and I don't want to think about it. I want to get back to, watching The View or whatever it is. And you think about taking in mainstream media is the exact same. That's the equivalent of that for your brain. Right. It's like, I don't want to think about it. Just tell me what I'm supposed to think.
Just someone else do it for me.
Right. Correct.
Right. I don't even need it fast. I just need someone else to do it.
Yes. And I think this is like what, we talk about statism as religion all the time. I think this has such a large part of it. It's like people, once they have adopted that template as their lifestyle, and then anyone pushes up against it, an RFK or Joe Rogan, for example, your Dave Smiths, all, and
oh shit, man down.
And it's now that alternative media or independent media, like all your podcasts and everything, are just getting more and more and more popular. And you have some guy, Clint Russell from Liberty Lockdown, doing a podcast out of his, bedroom in his house, and is getting more views and more listens than this highly produced, like, giant industry product, known as CNN, for example, or like Don Lemon show. And they're freaking out. I think this is why you're getting such an aggressive pushback against people doing these kinds of things.
God, that's such a great parallel that you made, like with the food, because the big corporations tend to demonize their competitors, right? And if you can do it in your own backyard, that's like the least, and that's the biggest enemy.
Yep.
So growing your own food, growing your own eggs, not culling your chickens when they have the bird flu or don't have the bird flu. Like, hello.
Your chickens are sick. They don't look sick. Trust us, they're sick.
Make sure
your booster,
get your vaccine, dude. When we were reading over what the CDC said about the bird flu stuff, do you remember that when I pulled up like their recommendations on bird flu, and they were saying like, well, it's not really, it can't really affect humans. Their last recommendation was you should get your flu shot. After just saying it doesn't affect humans.
Oh, bless their hearts.
You remember that? God. So
that's up there with what was there, a hurricane on the East Coast, and Joe Biden coming out and saying like your best chance against if you're in an area that's getting hit by a hurricane is to make sure you're vaccinated. I'm all, were we talking about that? I don't remember us like you just got to shoehorn it.
There's hurricane vaccines?
No, the COVID vaccine. If your town's getting hit by a hurricane, you should be vaccinated for COVID. And that reminded me with Peter Hotez, as we were talking about. He's just like, no, I don't exercise. I don't believe in vitamins. No, I don't exercise. I'm a junk foodaholic. You should get your vaccines, though. Well, it's kind of a left
non
turn
sequitur
out of nowhere.
Yeah, so it's been interesting. I feel like we're at this turning point in the world. I hope we're right. I hope I'm right. I do think that the beast that is the state is not going to go down without a fight, obviously. But It does seem like this story being so big and like lasting as long as it is, and just stirring up all this stuff about debate and the don't debate me bros and the debate. It's really interesting just how much people are reacting to this. I love that. It's Guardian article that James sent us.
Which one is that?
Today. is an opinion piece. A far-right conspiracy theory is always a far-right conspiracy theory, irrespective of whether or not it's actually true. Oh, this is by Mariana Spring. Listen to the fucking grammar in the... Oh, my God. What is wrong? We have created a generation of just idiots.
So
hold on, no.
Okay.
Let me read this again.
Okay,
Listen to the grammar in this headline.
Okay.
A far-right conspiracy theory is always a far-right conspiracy theory, irrespective of whether it's actually true or not. Irrespective, you don't have to say or not afterwards. Irrespective means or not, dummy. Where did you get your education? And then she says the subtitle, in fact, the more true it is, the more far-right conspiracy theory it is. Can't be real. Is this real?
I'm
This
trying
can't
to
be
wrap my
fucking
head
real.
around this.
That's what the settled science says anyways. This can't be true. No, I'm looking at it. It says settled science TM. Damn it. I hate when I fall for that shit.
Yep.
God damn it. Which reminds me, I was thinking about that one that you sent recently, the Facebook ad about minor attracted persons.
I sent that very skeptically.
Was it true?
I have no idea.
Oh.
Yeah. I am not typing in pedophilia into a dildo search.
How to find child prostitutes. Ah, shit! Stupid spell correct.
I'm on enough lists as it is. So when I saw that headline and when I saw the Facebook ad, which was basically soft peddling pedophilia, I don't know if that might have been a haiku right there.
Soft peddling,
peddling
soft porn. Soft.
Yeah, it was supposed to be an ad for Pride Month saying that pedophilia is just another way, it's another version of gender or whatever.
It's another form of pedophilia is love or something.
Pedophilia is love, yeah.
It's horrible.
Which is like one of the most horrific things I've ever seen. And you have to look at it. It's just, you see, pedophilia is a natural sexual orientation. And supposedly that's an ad that ran on Facebook during Pride Month. And
what makes it worse, it's a picture of two people holding hands. One of them is about a 7-year-old girl, and the other one is a grown adult.
But you see that. Here's what's so perplexing about Clown World is I saw that. I'm like, dude, that is rough. That I'm literally like sick to my stomach right now. Like that's really rough to see. And you go like, this could be totally fake. It could be completely true. Mm-hmm. And everything has gotten so ridiculous that I'm like, I have to entertain, I see stuff from the Babylon Bee. I was like, I could see this being true in 6 months.
I was thinking that too about this very ad, that I was thinking, God, it might not be true, and it's just someone making fun of the clown world that we're in because it is so easily believable.
Right.
But it kind of adds, if you made this ad, you're adding to the problem.
Yeah.
It's in the same category for me as the fake vaccine cards. Mm-hmm. It's like you're just, because this is also contributing to normalizing pedophilia.
Yeah.
Even though it's horrifying and ridiculous and just like I can't barely look at it. Yeah. It's just one more kind of like axe swing away at the trunk of Western civilization.
Right.
Because if you made this ad 10 years ago, like it wouldn't have an effect. It would be so outrageous. People would lose their shit. But now it's just kind of, well, that is kind of the world we're living in. Right? I mean, that's what all of our reaction to. I showed it to my wife, and she's like, no, that can't be true. Is that real? Whereas, like, 10 years ago, like, it would be no question.
Right.
At all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where are you on the...
On pedophilia? Anti.
Anti? Okay, good. All right. Let's continue the podcast then.
Okay.
I always meant to ask you that. Where are you on the... I think we've had this talk before with the vaccine cards, because my dad is in a medical facility.
Yeah.
And I have to go out there and see him. And I'm like, I can't keep track of like, are they still on to that stuff?
Well, I made you like 4 fake vaccine cards. So,
you did.
Yeah.
And I appreciate it. But that was an emergency. Like we were literally in an ambulance,
right?
Heading to the emergency room. I was like, dude, I have to figure this out right now. But this is not an emergency. And I was like, this is the debate that we've had with our buddy Jake.
Yeah.
He goes, hey man, fuck them. Like, do the fuckery, forge it. You know what I mean? If they want to make stupid rules, go around it. I'm always like going back and forth in my mind. I'm like, I don't want to play the game.
No.
Yeah.
I see it like this. In the Soviet Union, it was, capitalism was illegal. So to have Levi jeans was impossible.
Right.
You couldn't buy them.
Yeah.
You had to have Soviet jeans. Right. But people would buy and sell them on the black market. And the powers that be in the Soviet Union obviously knew that was happening. But they turned a blind eye to it because they didn't have to crack skulls.
Yeah.
And the people got to have their jeans. And it was this kind of like agreement, like,
Right.
we're not going to bust you. You can have your jeans, keep it on the DL, and then everyone's happy, right? You get to have a little bit of your capitalism, right? And I feel like the vaccine card...
We all know the system doesn't work, right?
Exactly. But it made it so that everyone just went along with the regime.
Yeah.
Because, well, at least you can still have your rights. You just have to have a fake vaccine card. It's not that big a deal. Like, let's just keep the system going. Everyone's happy.
Yeah, I fully understand that perspective, for sure.
But in an emergency, obviously, you do it. But I just think it kind of justifies the whole process. It means that you're willing to play along with their stupid game.
So another article that our buddy James sent is, let's start with this. And this is from April 30th, 2021. I mean, there's articles all over the place. A company just released 150,000 genetically modified mosquitoes in the United States. I told people this because we talked about this in the podcast.
Yeah.
I sprung this on you guys. I was like, did you know Bill Gates is funding a company that is going to these genetically modified mosquitoes? Two things. It is being done in an aid to wipe out the mosquito population. So I think the more...
Not all the mosquitoes.
What's that?
Not all the mosquitoes.
Yes.
One species of mosquito.
Right.
That is the only one apparently that carries dengue fever and
It's
malaria.
dengue fever and malaria is what they're trying to eradicate. And then Bill Gates shoehorned in there, like, what if these mosquitoes also carry the vaccine? Bill Gates, who also wants to... I told someone, like, Bill Gates wants to add vaccines into the food supply. Like, 'cause I was telling about Appeal, the company that he funded to... And so you're like, well, where'd you hear that? I'm like, his Twitter account. He said we need to add vaccines to the food supply. So this guy is fucking a complete fucking maniac. So they talk about Bill Gates backed the biotech firm Oxitec. And this is the company that released the mosquitoes in there. I believe
In Florida and California.
Well, I found
Brazil.
some varying information, but I believe the first test program was in Brazil, actually. Where
Yeah, it was Brazil.
Okay, Brazil, where it's a little more of a problem. And that specific breed of mosquito, as far as they could tell, they eliminated it down to like a 90% of the population or something like that. So
Wait, they were in Brazil. They reduced that.
population by 90%, supposedly.
Well, that's interesting because I was researching this also. We were probably looking at the same articles, but that mosquito only makes up 4% of the mosquito population in America.
Okay.
In North America.
Right.
I don't know what it was in Brazil before.
Yeah, either do I.
And if they reduced it by 90%, is that from its original population, or does that mean that it's only 10% of the...
All I can say
countries?
is that I'm looking at articles from CNN and NBC and weird news outlets that I've never heard of, and there is a wild discrepancy in the numbers, given on like what you see this from. But one thing that everyone was simpatico on is the original program was in Brazil. It was to eradicate this specific species of mosquito or whatever.
Aedes aegypti.
Okay, very nice. And that during this push, or when they release these mosquitoes, Bill Gates was saying we need to add the vaccine into mosquitoes, and then it could we wouldn't have to worry about like getting shots in arms anymore. Like,
Right.
You just have
Yeah,
to
that was when he came out with that flying vaccine idea.
Right.
He just came up with it out of the blue. Happened to also be founding the startup that does mosquito bioengineering.
through Oxafarm or Oxitec rather.
Oxitec.
And so then this is in 2021, and then just yesterday, articles start coming out. Is that Florida, they released these mosquitoes in Florida, 150,000 of them. And Florida just reported its first significant cases of malaria in 20 years. All of a sudden.
Yeah.
They're like, why malaria? Why are we getting malaria in Florida? Same place where they released these mosquitoes, supposedly to fight malaria.
Well,
I'm hard-pressed to think that that's a complete coincidence.
I was thinking the same way, and then the more research I did, the more I was kind of disappointed that
Okay.
like
Lay it on me.
that we weren't actually being totally manipulated by Bill Gates and his flying syringes. But I found this. This is from the Smithsonian. Not to say that we aren't, but there is some sort of plausible explanation for what's going on. So they released the mosquitoes in this one area of Florida that are supposed to, the only mosquito, this Egypti mosquito, that's supposed to be able to spread malaria. And then, like you said, a bunch of cases broke out. Well, what happens is there's like 2,000 cases of malaria in the United States every year.
2,000?
Yeah.
Okay.
But all of those cases come from people that got bit by a mosquito in another country.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the first time that it is spread.
Yeah.
And so it's plausible to think that, well, in the places that the mosquitoes bit these people and spread malaria, they didn't have their experiment going on
Right.
with these mosquitoes. But at the same time, how is it that the one state where we have this experiment going on, we're trying to limit this mosquito from spreading diseases, that all of a sudden...
Which are not a threat in the U.S. right now.
No.
We don't worry about dengue fever and malaria.
Or yellow fever or Zika even.
Yeah.
Right? And now all of a sudden we have the first cases of... The conclusion that I came from
The
is...
year after they released those mosquitoes.
That's the conclusion that I came away with was, let's keep an eye on this. Because that is, like you said, quite the coincidence that all of a sudden, okay, now we're spreading malaria in Florida, in the state where they released these, and I couldn't find out if the study area is the same as where the spreading was happening, but
Yeah.
it is quite the coincidence.
So,
And this is coming from... So the guy that started this startup, Bill Gates, is also the guy who said that we can control the world's population with vaccines.
with vaccines, we
Right, so-
can get that number by by 15% if we do a good
To
job.
my knowledge, he never went back and corrected himself or clarified what he was saying.
Or he
right there.
misspoke. I was like, I would have made a correction on that.
If he has said so, then please direct me to where that is, because I haven't seen
Show
it.
me where I'm wrong.
So I'm sticking with the idea that he is trying to kill people,
Right.
not help people.
So I looked at the article, and so when people say, like, where are you getting this information?
By the way, I love that. Sorry to interrupt you, but I love that the title of this article in the Smithsonian is "First U.S. Open Air Test of Genetically Modified Mosquitoes Deemed a Success."
That's not a success.
Clearly, they were not measuring it by how many people contracted malaria.
When people ask, like, where are you getting this information? I was like, I start at, like, what my stereotype is for, like, what people like you that don't agree with me, like, what you guys read. So I go to, like, CNN. I find the article on CNN. Like, yeah, we're getting the first cases of malaria. And then they interview a doctor, right? And they're like, let's get a medical professional on here. And look, I'm all, Leanna Wen? You guys went to Leanna Wen? Like, vaccine insane enthusiast, World Economic Forum collaborator. Leanna Wen, the doctor that happened to witness the Boston bombing and also happened to be on the shift, the supervisor at the emergency room, 8 hours later when they were taking in the patients. I'm all,
Really?
yes.
Was she present?
Probably, maybe a coincidence.
Was she present in Dallas when they found the magic bullet on the? Wow.
Leanna Wen that shared a cell with Jeffrey Epstein. That Leanna Wen. Oh, by the way, the DOJ did a study. Jeffrey Epstein committed suicide. As a
I
kid,
saw that.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
saw
I guess,
that.
I guess we were wrong.
It was just a total failure. Why don't we have that video?
He had
total failure.
He had
of
extra linens.
I saw that.
Yeah,
That was the mistake they made.
So my
and the guys fell asleep on their shift,
and the cameras broke.
Yeah,
and
it's just kind of a perfect
yeah,
storm.
the guy that just happened to have the dirt on all the most powerful people in the entire world. Yeah, so he will be missed.
Whoops.
Or not.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my coffee mug, Jeffrey Epstein didn't kill himself. I guess I'm going to have to get rid of that. Or at least blot out.
Yeah,
one of the
scratch
words.
out the...
Right, yeah. Yeah.
And
It's
apostrophe T.
It's too bad. It's too bad. Yeah. So it's just... When we see stuff like this, I just see it. I'm like, you start to feel like you're going like a little crazy. I'm like, we were saying this 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, 10 years ago, depending on what you're talking about. And then it just comes out, the information or the official report or the news article comes out, and it either confirms what we were saying before, and we talk about this all the time. Then you go to the people who are like, so I was right about that thing. Like, yeah, I don't remember having a strong opinion on that, on wearing masks. I was like, let me go through my text thread. I got quite a bit here.
Dude, look at this picture.
I had a lot of strong thoughts on it.
Look at this picture of this guy I took today. Crossing the crosswalk. This is in
Oh, wow.
June of 2023.
So he's got a mask on and a plastic face shield.
Yes. A mask that's like...
And pretty horrifically overweight, I might add.
Yeah. He has a bullshit mask that's not doing anything and the face shield. By the way, did you see that Hochul and the governor of New York is considering reinstating mask mandates?
I hope she does. Please.
Because,
please do it.
Do you know why?
No.
Because of the wildfire smoke
white
from
supremacy?
Canada. Which is caused by white supremacists, of course.
So you are not allowed to make the adult decision of like, I'm willing to take, a little bit of damage to the lungs. I'm fine. Or the air doesn't seem that bad.
I smoke cigarettes.
Yeah.
But you're making me wear a mask.
Yeah.
But I can remove the mask to smoke, I imagine. Like, what?
I'm at the point where I hope these people do these things because it just wakes more and more people up.
Totally.
Yeah. Please do
that
it.
and the New York and their
it's like letting
wood-fired oven ban. You hear about that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I saw that guy throw pizza onto the official building saying, like, give me pizza or give me death.
Yeah, if you didn't see it, this guy was protesting the wood-fired oven ban in New York City by ordering a bunch of...
They need to cut their emissions
really good-looking pizza.
70%, I think.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
Well, they do. I mean, otherwise the world is going to burn up.
Yeah, it's going to end in 2020, I believe.
No, 2012.
Oh, 2012. Okay.
Yeah.
That's what that autistic Swedish girl said.
Yeah. What day is it?
Yeah. Check the old calendar.
I don't know. I'm sure it's coming. Were you going somewhere with that?
In life or in this podcast?
Well, we know the answer to the first question.
I officially started vacation. I mean, which I'd never say because I don't work in an industry where, I'm going to request 2 weeks off. I just say like, hey, I'm going to leave town for a while. And, which I rarely do because I'm so busy all the time. And lately I've been like busier than I ever have been. And, it skipped my mind entirely. Like, I'm like, hey, I'm going to knock off for the day. Like, I got some stuff to take care of. I was like, man, I'm on vacation. I'm like,
I'm not going to be back here for 10 days.
Yeah, it's like, I'm not going to be here for like a week and a half. Is everything squared away? Is a very relaxing feeling.
1 second. All right. So, I didn't know much about the submarine that had sunk looking for the Titanic until my wife brought it up.
Okay.
And then some of the memes that you guys had been sending me made a lot more sense.
Okay, can I interject a question here?
Please.
Why were you not paying attention to it? Because I know I wasn't paying attention to it either.
No reason.
Okay.
It just wasn't on my radar.
Okay.
You know, like I was talking about the guy on the mountain that's looking, you know, that information didn't make it to me.
I wasn't
except through memes that you guys were sending me,
Yep.
and it had a submarine in it, and I wasn't even like,
which were incredibly cruel and funny.
I haven't gone back to look at them to see. I'm sure you're right, but I don't remember being like so. I get so much shit from you guys every day in our text thread that I can't.
It's not just
I can't
you.
Possibly,
everyone does all the time.
I can't possibly keep up with it. So if I don't understand the meme, I just like move on, right?
Yeah.
Well, now I'm remembering there were submarines in those memes, and it's like, okay, this must have been according to this, but pertaining to the sub sinking. But I didn't know about it until the wife brought it up.
So the reason why I was asking is that you do pay attention to a lot of shit. You and I are like constantly engaged in stuff, and we're like the amount that we text back and forth, and on that group text, we're constantly like, check this out, look at this article, and then there's certain stuff. So like,
but I get so inundated that I'm like, shut up.
Yeah, but also like the submarine stuff, I'm like, this seems pretty Chinese spy balloonish. So
exactly.
It just seems like a giant like. And then
it was even less than that.
And then all the same patterns follow. It's like same people get outraged. Like, oh, everyone's like worried about like a bunch of rich people on a sub. Like, you know what I mean? Of course, it's all like white people.
Okay, well, that's where. So that's where I was going with it. Is that what made me start paying attention? Is that Gertrude was telling me how people were like celebrating the fact that the people had died on this sub,
which is a very perverse way to live your life.
And so I started looking into it, and then it was like, oh my God, yeah, like people are saying what you were saying about, well, why are we caring about these 3 rich or however many rich millionaires on this sub? We should be caring about all the people that drown every day. Like, and I just started, I was trying to kind of wrap my head around it. Well, here, let me,
okay.
If you don't believe me,
I believe you.
Not you. Viewers at home. Here's our former President Obama talking about it.
There is a potential tragedy unfolding with a submarine that is getting, minute-to-minute coverage all around the world. And it's understandable because obviously we all want and pray that those folks are rescued.
Not all of us.
But the fact that that's gotten so much more attention than 700 people who sank is...
Check this side eye everyone.
That's an untenable situation. And the notion that we can't do something about that is simply not true.
Okay, so give me the cliff notes of what his point was right there.
He's saying that...
I'm setting you up for something.
Okay, he's saying that because communism and Marxism is the way we should all be living, that we cannot value any one person's life over another. Everyone is 100% exactly equal, to which I would say, I give a shit more about the people in the submarine because they're more interesting people. Those migrants that are fleeing their countries for a better life, I have sympathy for them, but they have not done anything. And they're probably breaking the law by trying to get into this country. And they've probably made a really poor decision on getting on a boat that is obviously going to sink. Now, did these...
That's not where I was going with this.
So did these rich millionaires, by the way. The more I look into it, like the submarine was obviously going to fail under the ocean. So they're idiots also. However, I find the story of the rich millionaires on the submarine looking for the Titanic to be just a much more compelling tragedy than this story of just a bunch of people that once again got on a shitty boat and drowned. I mean, my heart goes out to them. It really does.
We had a running joke. We were laughing out today. It's like, man, what's so funny is it just follows the same predictable the same template, right? It's like, now they're getting outraged. It's like, well, they deserve to die. And then it says like, yeah, like, if it wasn't white people, like, no one would care about this sub. We start laughing all. When you hear people say that and you look at their profile, or I've heard people say that in real life, you go, you don't know any black people, do you? because every black guy I know like doesn't go in the pool, and they're sure as shit not getting on a submarine. As I am not either. If you said like you want to get in this tiny sub and go see the wreckage of the Titanic, fuck no. You fucking kidding me? I'm not getting into that thing.
No.
And then
Would you?
fuck, dude, no, you couldn't pay me to get that thing.
Hell no.
And which is always like the best part of these discussions.
You know, it was a carbon fiber submarine.
Yeah. And they tightened the ratchets on it by hand. And even
They didn't even use a fucking torque wrench.
and even better is now we have like footage of the guy, what was the company called Titan, the guy that ran Titan, the submarine program, goes, well, when I originally started this project, obviously you get a lot of like military guys coming to the surface.
Oh, yeah.
They want to help out. And it's a lot of like 50-year-old white guys. I just find them uninspiring.
Yeah.
How'd that work out for you?
I was watching a documentary with Junior the other night about the jet program and the fighter program during World War II. And the men in the room that were coming up with the most like highly advanced fighter planes, eventually jets, both on the Germans and in the Americans. Yeah. Everyone in the room was a like silver-haired old engineer. And they were on the cutting edge of creating these amazing machines. Wait. And I was just imagining some like woke CEO walking into the room and be like, no, there are way too many old white men in here. Let's bring in some young kids. Like,
my truth says,
exactly.
When you said a bunch of German scientists, I thought we were talking about NASA for a second, but yeah.
NASA. No, that's another story for another time.
But the point being that I talked about, it's like you look at these posts and these articles written by these like, it's always suburban, like well-to-do white women. I was like, they say the most racist shit ever. And it just goes over their head. They don't realize. I'm like, the bigotry of low expectations that they have. And you read the stuff they say, and you're just like, do you not see that as like slightly racist? Is what you're saying? And it's like it goes. They're like blind to it. There's that irony softball flying by your head.
They don't have to worry about that.
Yeah.
They're never going to get accused of racism unless they go against the machine, like we were talking about earlier with RFK, and anyone that contradicts what the mainstream narrative is.
Just to take a quick side street, are you aware of the Supreme Court decision that happened today?
No,
it's to not consider race in college applications. No longer.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Like ending affirmative action in college.
Ending affirmative action, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And I found this tweet this person said.
That is so racist.
Today's Supreme Court decision this person is named Erica Marsh on Twitter. Today's Supreme Court decision is a direct attack on black people. No black person will ever be able to succeed in a merit-based system, which is exactly why affirmative action-based programs were needed. Today's decision is a travesty.
Wow. Is that person white?
It's a white woman.
Oh, my God. Oh, God.
It's like, so, like, you want to, I don't know. I don't engage in the...
There's no meme good enough to show the irony there.
I know. I don't take part in the digital ankle biting, but you want to tap on the shoulder, like, you're not supposed to just say it like that.
Let's maybe, before you hit send, kind of think about what you wrote.
Like, I could copy and paste this and put it on, like, the KKK website.
Yes. No black people will ever be able to compete in a merit-based society. Let's just face it. I mean, you know what? Good job, guys. Cheers. Hey, we're good.
Yeah. White women did it again.
Wow. Man, so, yeah, is all of this stuff because we have lost our way? Is it the whole rich, or strong men make for good times scenario that we're in this situation?
Yes, I believe it.
A great meme for that too, by the way.
Put it on the group text. I'll check it out.
Yeah. Or is it actually by design where we've ruined our school system and made kids dumber intentionally? By the way, I was listening to Gab McGinnis's show today on that note. And he was talking, somebody called in and said, like, what was it like being on Joe Rogan? Which I guess was a long time ago.
And is no longer available on Spotify. He's one of the guys that got banned.
Oh, really?
Yeah, him and Alex Jones, you can't find those episodes anymore.
No shit.
Yeah.
Darn it, because I was just about to go look it up, actually. he said, I love Joe Rogan. He was awesome. He was a great guy. So every time I go to LA, though, I feel like people in California don't know anything. And like, I'll talk about, what was he saying? Like about how there's an inbreeding problem with Muslims. And, you know, you say that to someone on the East Coast, and it's like, yeah, well, it's because, you know, in their religion, like, it was okay for Muhammad to, you know, marry his cousin. And it was just kind of this thing that goes back a while and blah, blah, blah. And but on the East Coast, people are like, or on the West Coast, people are like, what? He's like, I walk around, I feel like I'm a genius walking around in California. And not to call myself a genius, but I do kind of know where he's coming from because I went to school, elementary school, mostly on the East Coast.
Right.
I learned more there than I went to really good schools.
Yeah.
I'm finding out. I learned a lot. And when I went to school in Ferndale, like Ferndale's not known for its academic excellence. I'm not sure if you're aware.
I got to push back on you. Is when I was in junior high, so 7th and 8th grade, there was a category of schools in California that was known, I'm not going to remember it, but we got a bunch of extra funding because, like, you guys are known as an exceptional school. And they took that money and bought these things called Ollie workbooks. This is interesting to no one except for me. And it was just the bullshit. Like, it was just the most prolific waste of budget you could ever get.
Where did that award come from?
State of California.
Okay.
Okay.
So what? They gave themselves one of these?
All right. All things being relative.
Here's my anecdotal experience.
Within California, we were exceptional.
Exactly. So when I went into 9th grade there, I had already done trigonometry in elementary school. Right. And I told Miss Bennett, our math teacher, that maybe I had already done algebra 2, and I was ready for trigonometry. And she's like, you can't do trigonometry. You're just not, I don't think you're ready for it. I'm like, what are you talking about? I did it in my school. She's like, I don't think that you are old enough to do trigonometry. You're not emotionally mature enough to do trigonometry.
Trigonometry is where they teach you how to shoot in PE.
I was like, bitch, give me the test. And she was like, okay, fine, you're ready. You know, so nice. I was way ahead. And I was not unique in Maryland.
Yeah.
I was just one of the kids that were like, a bunch of kids were like me. But in Ferndale, I was me and Nick, our friend Nick, were the only ones that were.
I know the Nick you're talking about, Mike.
Okay. We're the only ones that had, you know, any sort of math skills. And then we ended up having to go to the College of the Redwoods for calculus because they didn't even offer it in our high school.
Damn.
So, sorry, I'm not trying to toot my own horn here. But I could identify with what he was saying, that California is, and you and I know this, we talk about it all the time, our schools suck.
Yeah, they had some of the lowest test scores in the entire nation.
We hold ourselves up as this shining example.
But we spend twice as much as every other state.
But that's not enough, Matt. The only way to get the kids smarter is by spending even more.
And more.
Right? And that's what we learned.
What we need is more administration.
That will do it.
We need
equity,
a top-heavy administrative bureaucracy that will tackle these problems.
Yes, we need more offices of student equity and lunchtime therapy and
fucking math inclusion.
Exactly. So, is this intentional? Or is it the strong men make for good times? Or is it intentional? Or is it just the scenario that we're in? Or are they actually deliberately trying to destroy California in order to make everyone dumb? Because these dumb people are very easy to manipulate because they're like they're the people that you see eating the fast food and taking in the fast media.
One. It's that one.
Right?
Yeah.
That's what I think it is too. Because it is really important that they can control us. Yep. Otherwise, how are they ever going to stay in power? How is Gavin Newsom ever going to win an election if he's not in total control of the people? He's not providing anything good for the people, and that all he's doing is creating poverty. And then telling people that the reason that you're in poverty is because no one cares about you, but I do, and I'll give you more money. So let's create more poverty, bring in more immigrants, bring in more import more poverty by removing industry, removing energy, making it harder to work, making it harder to build a home. Like more and more of this red tape and this administration just this huge wet wool blanket over California.
They're creating their own industry. They're creating their own jobs. A perfect example is the homeless industrial complex.
Yes.
How long was this? 20 years ago at this point that Gavin Newsom, as mayor of San Francisco, said, "I'm going to end homelessness." For those of you that haven't been to San Francisco in the last 10 years, it is horrific. It is a complete fucking debacle.
It didn't end.
It didn't end. Yeah, much less did it end. And then it has him touring. You know, he was down in L.A. at Skid Row, giving this interview, going like, "What are we doing here? Like, we got to do better."
He's like, "I own this.
What's this?
Yeah.
You got a mouse in your pocket? What's this we shit? Like, you've been in charge of this the entire time.
You've been raping our state this whole time, telling us that you're going to make it better."
Everything just gets continually worse over and over and over again.
So that makes me think of the World Economic Forum and the BlackRock and State Street and Vanguard companies, because the reason I think of them is that we talk a lot about the disintegration of our culture and our America that we know and love. And we wonder, like, how does this happen? Why do people let this happen? And you look at the big brands that are supposed to be American brands, and it seems like they're participating in the same destruction.
They are. And that's so when people see, and the right has fallen for this bait so horrifically, it's embarrassing to watch. So I thought back to this is like, what's the current thing right now? It's Target, and it's Bud Light, and it's North Face. It's these crazy like fringe like woke commercials, and then you watch the stock tank, and then the right celebrates. They go like, "Yeah, we showed them. Look at that. Look at the stock, fall. It's just plummeting. Like, good job, guys. Like it's happening. Like these companies do not care.
Right?
Like this is being done by design. There is a bigger picture that you need to look at.
I think that if you look at it with a war analogy, like it's like battles are being won, which is good.
Sure.
But the war is not over.
Well, it sends a cultural
You don't want to give yourself a pat on the back after you win a battle. Like there's still a war to fight.
Well, I think the right is celebrating the cultural message of like, yeah, we made them suffer. I was like, there is a level above this that I don't think that most people are aware of. So this whole thing with BlackRock began with a letter from the UN by someone named Kofi Annan, who wrote a letter to all the largest companies in the world saying, like, this ties into the ESG score. Did you look into this at all? Like, we talked about this a lot. This is the environmental social governance score. And what they do is they attribute a score that is beholden to these, basically, a woke agenda. And they take that score and they give a corporation that specific score. So it's like 0 to 100, I think is what it is. Anything over 70 is considered good to invest in. And so BlackRock, who manages over...
And just to clarify, considered good to invest in doesn't mean that you'll get a return on your money.
Not in terms of fiduciary responsibility,
no.
According to this ESG score.
Yes, of what is
very different things.
Yes. And in fact, a lot of lawsuits are coming out right now suing them for not doing their fiduciary responsibility and instead using ESG.
Yeah, and BlackRock and Vanguard, which are interrelated like very tightly, but BlackRock, Larry Fink, basically have become the gatekeepers for this ESG score, right? And because they have what they do, Larry Fink in 2021, I think of October, wrote a letter to all the largest corporations. The first letter was from Kofi Annan, who wrote it from the UN. Like, here's what we're trying to do. We're trying to, it's going to be for climate. It's going to be for like social justice. And then Larry Fink took that letter, put his own spin on it, and says like, yes, this is what we're doing. Because when the UN writes a letter to all these largest corporations, they're like, okay, this is which way the wind is blowing, but there's no money on the table, right? Like, we don't get money from the UN. But when Larry Fink does it from BlackRock, because they manage over $10 trillion of assets, they're the largest company in the world. So when you look at like who controls the world, like it's BlackRock. They own like a share in everything. And they also have the access to the Federal Reserve. Larry Fink wrote this letter to all these companies, and it's right on point when we started seeing like all these like woke commercials. I thought back to it. Mm-hmm. Remember what the original one was?
Original woke commercial?
Yeah, with the turning point when you saw a commercial, you're like, who are they? Who is this aimed towards? Like, who is like this? This seems to like completely miss what their customer base is. I had to think back to this, and it was really interesting when it hit me because I remember seeing that. I'm like, wow, that doesn't seem like they are hitting their customer base.
For you to see a commercial at all is pretty.
Well, no, I heard about the commercial and listened to the audio.
No.
Remember the original Gillette commercial? It was like coming out, and it was basically.
I never saw that. I kept hearing about it.
I did see it, and it was basically the whole tone of the commercial was against masculinity. I'm all, selling razors to men.
Yes,
Gillette, the best a man can get. It's like, and they had this commercial saying like, they had like kids like wrestling, and they're like, no, don't. That's not how we solve problems. Like boys being boys, and the whole notion of like a boys club and like guys hanging out. It was like a complete like demonization.
It was the first one that went like way too far.
Yeah, and then it went Gillette, Pepsi Cola, Coca-Cola, and now here we are. 2 years later with Target and.
Bud Light,
Miller Lite, North Face.
Yeah,
is what happens is the short-sighted view is Bud Light lost what was it, $6 billion in revenue. I think actually $9 billion. Target lost, one of them lost 6, one of them lost 9 in like 1 week, right? Because their stock price plummeted. Is you don't realize like they have a deal with BlackRock because BlackRock wrote this letter, Larry Fink did, and said like, if you want access to us and we control everything because we are the ones that are going to buy a certain amount of shares or whatever in the long term, is you have to be beholden to these ESG rules. And the companies that don't do that, like you will suffer. Like we will play. So if you are a startup and you don't have access to BlackRock, which has access to the Federal Reserve, you're fucked. Like you're not getting your company off the ground.
Right. Which is why for one, the biggest enemy of these giant corporations, like we were saying earlier, are mom and pop shops or you doing your own thing in your backyard, which is not economically viable, but mom and pop shops.
And that's
why is it a coincidence that that's who was destroyed during
I was just
COVID?
Say.
Right? So that's the biggest enemy to them.
Correct.
But if you decide that you don't want to drink Bud Light anymore and you go to Coors Light instead, do you think these guys care?
Do not give a shit.
Here's I'm just going to do a little thing here. Give me a company like that everyone knows, like that's probably publicly traded. Just pick a name out of the hat. I'm going to tell you who the biggest shareholders are of that company.
General Electric.
Now, do something a little bit more obscure.
Oh, okay.
But still well known.
Let me see here. Help me out.
Okay, let's say, and now I don't have this keyed up, but let's just
like Ford.
Okay, well, yeah, Ford would be one. Yeah, but okay, so biggest shareholders of Ford. We're gonna go with Vanguard,
which is BlackRock.
Well, no, they're different companies.
Okay.
Vanguard, BlackRock, and State Street are the 3 biggest investment firms, and they're all they're the ESG.
But they are, what I'm saying is they're the same company within this paradigm.
Exactly.
Right.
All right. Pick another one like who makes this TV? JVC. BlackRock.
Yep.
I mean, literally every company. I did this experiment before because I didn't want it to fail on the podcast, but I went through like all sorts of weird companies, like lumber companies and like Makita and just like all these different companies. Every time it's either Vanguard, BlackRock, or State Street.
Right.
The point is that,
and they're all on each other's board of directors, by the way.
Yes,
and that's the integration of what Charlie Robinson calls it something. It's like that. It's the overlapping board of directors model or something like that. And it's like when you see every company go and do the same thing, it's like, well, it's all the same people on the same boards. There's a reason why the guy, the guy on the board of the directors of General Electric is also on the board of Mitsubishi, is they have the same meetings over and over, and they go like, "This is what we're doing now."
Right.
Yeah.
So you can boycott Bud Light, but unless you're going to, I was about to say Lagunitas, but they're kind of, you know what? Who are the biggest shareholders of Lagunitas?
Lagunitas, which is a very popular beer here, and which was a huge brewery here in Northern California. They were bought by Anheuser-Busch, was it? Who owns Bud Light, I believe.
So Heineken bought them.
Heineken, sorry.
So maybe better search is Heineken. I have no idea how to spell that, but the internet will help. It looks like they're not private, but the biggest shareholders are not BlackRock. And anyways, my point is, unless you go from Bud Light to a local brewery, if you're going from Bud Light to Coors Light or Miller Light or whatever, you're not boycotting anyone. You're just shifting your chips from one pile to another pile.
Right.
Which is why these guys don't really
It's like
care.
being in Vegas, like, this table's feeling unlucky. I'm going to go somewhere else. Like, the house always wins. The house always wins.
And beer is an easy one for people to shift from.
Yep.
So I got all pissed off the other day when my beloved Oakland A's fired Dwayne Kuiper for accidentally saying the magic word on the air. And it's like, what am I going to do? Go be a Braves fan or go root for the Giants? I can't do that, right?
Yeah.
So beer is something that you can easily switch from. But even in that, like the best case scenario, are you going to switch from Bud Light to Pliny the Elder? Like, it's just people that drink Bud Light.
If you're drinking Bud Light, I can't get inside your head to begin with.
It's your choice of beer is going to be another beer that's owned by these corporations. Yep. So why are they doing this in the first place? Right? What is their actual goal here?
This was my question when I first started hearing about ESG, and people like Clint Russell from Liberty Lockdown does a lot of deep dives on this, but I never got to. I was like, but why? Like, why is this happening? It's obvious. It's obvious to me at this point that it's very coordinated and orchestrated. All these companies are on board. It's all being done. Okay, now I'm finding out this other level. Your Larry Finks, your State Streets, your Vanguards, your BlackRock. But why are they doing this? And then you start connecting these people to the World Economic Forum, which Larry Fink is a part of, and you go like, okay, there's something. This is a cultural shift that they're trying to achieve. It's forced behavior modification. That has nothing to do with business. You start reading about stakeholder capitalism, right? It's about, I know this sounds clunky and conspiratorial, but it's the implementation of a subjugation of a population. There's a fucking hard sentence to say. It's communism. It's communism. They're trying. It's a complete compliance of a population.
It's a new form of communism, but yeah, it is communism. Look at all the things that are coming out right now. Air travel.
Yep.
Travel in general. They're saying that the new form of vacation travel is going to be virtual.
Yeah, buddy.
You're not going to be. It's going to be demonized to travel anymore. Yeah. We already know it's demonized to use gasoline and drive your truck anywhere.
California just put in, they're trying to pass legislation that will tax drivers by the mile.
Right.
Yep.
So that's what the goal is. And don't take my word for it. Here's Larry Fink himself talking about it.
You now make a point of that's an investment criteria for you.
Well, behaviors are going to have to change, and this is one thing we're asking companies. You have to force behaviors, and at BlackRock we are forcing behaviors. 54% of the incoming class are women. We added 4 more points in terms of diverse employment this year, and what we are doing internally is if you don't achieve these levels of impact, your compensation could be impacted.
had a Toya Yamaguchi fantasy.
Okay,
We're doing the same thing.
and so it's just
Another
you
great
have
Liberty
to
Tree shirt.
Force behaviors, and if you don't force behaviors, whether it's gender or race, or just any way you want to say the composition of your team, you're going to be impacted, and that's not recruiting. It is development, as Ken said, and ultimately, it's still going to take time. But I am just as much shocked as Ken is that we have not seen more opportunities, and we're going to have to force change.
The point being of that is you look at that guy, like, do you think he gives two flying fucks about diversity or gender equality or social justice?
I think he said what his intention was in the beginning.
Yeah.
He wants to force change.
But I think your average NPC dummy who, uses 10%, 2% of their brain sees that and goes like, yeah, I think he just cares about people. Like, no. He cares about compliance and subjugation of an entire population.
Of course.
And he's working for someone else. Like, this guy is not at the top of the heap.
Do you think he's a fan of the free market? No. A free market means that it's a level playing field.
Right.
That you do not have government favoritism. That you don't get to have the government shut down businesses during a bad cold year in favor of big businesses.
By the way, they just approved the final, not to derail you, but they just approved the clinical trial and now to go to market for an aerosolized COVID spray.
Oh, thank God.
You can just spray it in your face like that aerosol sun spray that moms spray in their fucking kids' faces at soccer practice.
Dude, I hope they
I'm doing this because I love my son. Oh, God, lady.
We're going to see crop dusters come down and spraying that shit.
And this is what we always talk about. It's like we go, I'm saying no to the shot. It's a mosquitoes now. Like, we're kind of fucked. It's just like, now it's aerosolized. You're like, at some point, we're like, what are we going to do?
When I was a kid in Maryland, out at the beach there, they would fly over all of Delaware and Maryland in crop dusters and spray for mosquitoes.
First tour I went on, we played a house party in Houston. I walked out in the street and a truck drove by just spraying. It sprayed right over me. I'm like, what is that? It's like, it's for the mosquitoes. I'm like, oh, God, dude, what is in my lungs right now?
So crazy. It's funny because the way that
that's how I became vaccinated.
That's why you're so healthy. The way that they are willing to destroy all of our businesses, because it's the state of America now, and I think the world at large, is that a lot of damage happened during COVID.
Correct.
It was unnecessary.
Yep.
They all know that. We know that. I'm not sure that your average NPC knows that, but they just didn't care. It was kind of like the generals in World War I who just all of a sudden in World War I had access to millions of people. It wasn't like wars before where you had to get people you either had to pay them or get them signed up to go to war. And World War I is like, no, you are our subject now. Thank you, democracy. And we're going to go to war. You all have to fight.
Which they're doing in Ukraine right now.
Yes, I'm not going to get into it, but that is an advent of democracy, by the way, not monarchy. In monarchy, you couldn't just tell everyone to go to war.
Zelensky also suspended all elections until
in the name of democracy, Matt. You have to do that.
Yeah.
In a democracy, you have to suspend elections in order to make sure that
it's much like all other systems, much like the homeless industrial complex. They just need a little bit more money. We're at $124 billion and just an additional $6 billion because of an accounting error that we just sent over there.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure. God. So it's to me like, so they're just wasting they're wasting us, and there's nothing that we can do about it. And then what is people's reaction? It's like, what is the only option? And I think you've expressed this sentiment before on the podcast. It's like, I'm just going to check out. All right. I don't want government in my life. I don't need your corporate stores. I'm going to go up on top of a mountaintop, and I'm going to grow my own food, and I'm going to be self-sufficient, and I want you just to leave me the fuck alone. And it's like, do you want all of us to do that? Do you want us all to become Randy Weaver?
Yeah.
They do.